I'm not one to walk away from challenges, so I said, okay, I'll do a recap. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to ask everybody to keep the glass items in their, on their tables. The spare fruit you may have, please put it away. Don't throw it or anything. And we're going to take it from here. So when Courtney asked me what my recap of the trip was, I started to tell her all the things I saw. She goes, no, you got to tell a story. This is supposed to be a story. So here's the story. And it's going to be familiar to most of you because it started probably about 3 years ago when we all signed up for this trip. And, who couldn't pass up the chance to see the elusive and rare white spirit bear? And I'm not a rainforesty kind of guy. I live in the mountains. We get the opposite amount of sunshine and rain than they do here, but what the heck. And the trip got postponed, and then postponed again. And in the meantime, I took a bunch of other trips. But am I the only person who was afraid when you got an email that said, here's an important notice about your upcoming trip?
Yeah.
Except for the last one that said, we're going to give you $1,000. That one I didn't mind reading, but all the ones coming up to that, holy crap, I didn't want to read anything that said Lindblad Travel on it. But hey, you know what? We're all here. So this isn't, we all got here somehow or another. This is a story about how or why we got here, but it's about what we saw and did, or what we saw and experienced during this trip. So this is kind of going to be what we're going to talk about here. So what did we see? Well, we saw native things. We saw colorful things. We saw swimming things. We saw slimy things. We saw big, vast things. We saw flying things. We saw some little things. And we finally saw some furry things. I think that's what we're all after. So we all saw that. There's a boatload, I know, pun intended, we're on a boat. A boatload of great pictures on there. I can't wait to download everybody's pictures because I think they're all going to be awesome. I don't think there's a bad picture you can take here. But what did we experience while we're here? So we experienced some early mornings, and if you were out with Sabina on the deck doing your stretches, more power to you. I enjoyed the extra 15 minutes of sleep. We enjoyed some pretty nice late evenings, like we're out of here, and I know I'm making this evening worse than it could have been. We enjoyed some pretty breathtaking things. But we also were here for the learning and understanding. And I mean, that goes to this wonderful staff. Yeah. Everybody here. Whether we were traipsing in the mud and maybe you had to get out and push your raft, looking at little critters, some of which kind of crawling. I had a spider crawling on me today. I don't know how I didn't jump out of the boat to get the spider off of me, but that's okay. Some really cool native things, which I think was really, really a lot of fun to see that. It would have been nice if we could have gone to see more of that, but I get it. Not in this day and age just yet. A little questionable about some of the things we might have learned, but I learned more about a dead fish than I care to know, both on 2 different days. And the other thing we experienced was this togetherness. We're all here in this boat, and whether you were on the sun deck with Sabina, hiking together, boating together. Some of those a little more togetherness than I would have liked, but that's okay. There was a lot of togetherness in the animal world with the birds and the fishes. I'm sorry, they're mammals. Remember I said don't throw things at me? And, we have families traveling together. But what the other part of that is, too, is that we're all strangers when we got on board, but we're all got together while we're here to enjoy this really cool, great adventure. This is not my first trip with these folks. I was actually on this boat back in November. Captain Cook was my captain. Lindsay was the hotel manager while I was in boat. John was the expedition leader on that trip. Trust me, you were. I have the picture of you hanging on the wall there, so you were. In any case, this was a lot of people getting to know each other, but the other part of this too was the joy of seeing everything we saw. I have never seen more big smiles on anybody's face, including mine, than when we saw that first day when we saw the bears. And then the second day when we saw it again. And then when we saw everything else. How many times did we see whales? And everybody finally said, okay, it's another whale, forget it. But how many smiles did we see because everybody saw that? So the joy of being on this. And that, I think, is what I think is the recap of this week. And I think it was a lot of fun. And I couldn't have planned a better trip. A little squeamish when I first, last few days before the trip. We're going to see anything? We're not going to see anything? I know a lot of people were like, boy, I paid a whole crap load of money and I don't know if I'm going to see anything. But in reality, we did. And I think it was a really great trip. And I'm going way over on the time that Emily said I had. So, Emily, sorry. I'm going over a little bit. But anyway, that's it. That's the recap. That's what I have. I hope everybody thinks that was a good recap for the trip.